Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the news of the Jake Guentzel trade from yesterday night. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yes, obviously last night we heard news of the Guentzel trade, but we had to wait hours for what the trade details were. I didn't make a video about it because I just wanted to know what the details were going to be before I really gave my 2 cents on it, and then I'll talk about why I also didn't do a video about it later on for those of you that stick around. Nothing crazy exciting, but anyway, we get to talk about the trade details, then get to talk about the implications of it, and then my take on the deal. So with it being said, Guentzel and Ty Smith were shipped off to Carolina, and then the Penguins in return were getting Michael Bunting, who I'm sure you've all heard by now is getting reunited with Kyle Dubas. They've got history that stretches back even before his NHL days, Bunting's NHL days, and he is on a 2-year deal, so he's going to be with Pittsburgh potentially over the next 2 seasons, but also including the remainder of this season. And then there were some other picks involved, or other pieces, those being picks that were conditional picks that are really interesting. And they're interesting because of the fact they are just like some other teams that we've talked about during this trade period. They're tied to Stanley Cup playoff success. And for the Penguins, they're probably going to be rooting for Carolina during the playoffs like some other teams are with these trades, as the Hurricanes are giving up potentially a first-round pick if they make the Stanley Cup final. It turns into a second-round pick if they don't. And then the Penguins would also be getting a 5th-round pick if the Canes end up winning the Stanley Cup. So kind of a weird deal. Again, we know that this is something that's a little bit normal. Teams like Dallas, teams like Colorado and Florida, at least Florida I do know, have kind of thrown out these deals where other teams that are part of the trade are probably saying, man, as much as they don't want to root for another team in this moment, we really would like to see this team do well so we can get better picks. And I kind of like it though, because it gives fans a little bit more to dive into and just kind of keep an eye out on some other things that aren't just related to their team. On top of that as well, the Hurricanes were shipping off 3 prospects, and I will leave their names up here, just right here at the moment. We're not going to talk about them a whole lot, but I will say this: they were ranked as the 6th, 7th, and 9th best prospects in the Carolina Hurricanes prospect pool, according to theathletic.com, and it kind of all circles around this. Pittsburgh, while the deal may not be what some people were hoping for, is getting prospects that they probably want, because according to the hockeywriters.com and the Athletic, 2 separate sources that I'm using here, Pittsburgh ranked 27th in both of their rankings for prospect pools, so getting some reinforcements. You have to remember, over the years, the Penguins have been a side that's been relatively old, and they are looking to be able to get some young guys. By doing so, I think all these guys are like 22 and younger and could potentially play a part in this side in the coming years. Not saying that they're all going to be bona fide stars or anything like that, but the Pens end up getting 3 pieces for the future, as well as some picks, and Bunting, of course, as well, that I do think is a good player. So the Pens obviously get to add a little bit more to this by getting rid of Guentzel. Now we get to talk about Guentzel and what's going to happen here with the Canes. And with Guentzel in Carolina, this automatically becomes a big deal because of the fact that we've seen other teams go out there and make big moves. Carolina has pulled the trigger on the biggest trade you could probably make during this deadline period, and it's fun because of the fact that Carolina has been a pretty good team over the years, but they just haven't been able to get there. They haven't been able to get over the hump and at least make it to the Stanley Cup final. They have 2 Eastern Conference final appearances in the past 5 seasons, I believe, and are a team that every year has a chance but just can't quite get it done. By getting Guentzel, if he is able to be a good player, you have to imagine he's going to be one of the better goal scorers for them, and is somebody that could really benefit from a change of scenery. Pittsburgh's power play this year has not been ideal, and looking at Carolina's, it's been able to score a lot more goals at a higher rate, I should say, than what the Pens have been able to do. Not necessarily saying that Pittsburgh's power play problems couldn't be fixed next season, potentially, but yeah, you have a side that is already looking to be a good team. But by getting Guentzel, the question then becomes, can they become a great team? And the answer is, I don't really know if they're going to just be this juggernaut now. There's plenty of teams that are capable of winning the Cup, and they do look good, but goaltending has kind of held them back. At moments, we've done a video, I believe, earlier in the year on the fact that defensively things have been going really well for Carolina, but the goalie situation hasn't really worked out well for them. I do know that Freddie Anderson is back from his injury with his blood clotting issues, so hopefully maybe the situation with Kochetkov and everything works out for them. get solid goaltending. The defensive numbers are there to back them up and help them out. And by getting Guentzel provides more opportunities for himself and just for the team, because they're getting a guy that could be really hot come playoff time that also allows other players to score goals for them. And the goal really becomes to make a deep run, deeper than they've ever gone before, farther than they've ever gone before. Getting into the Stanley Cup final, I think, is obviously everyone's goal, but for Carolina, they've been on the brink on multiple occasions, haven't been able to get there. Not only do they want to get there, they want to win it, and who wins this trade, I think, is the final talking point here, if you want to get into that, and I do want to get into that. And for me, unfortunately, I really don't have an answer right now because of the fact that there's so many things that are going on here that could turn into something. I think Guentzel is very well going to be a player that could help out Carolina, maybe get that second championship, but at the same time, too, this is something that is going to be looked at way down the road. How are these prospects going to pan out? How is Bunting going to do for the team as even part of their future? How are these picks going to pan out? Because again, there are so many pieces that are going to Pittsburgh that we could be looking back at this and saying Kyle Dubas did pretty well here, and I think that people just want to dunk on a GM all the time, and for Dubas, he didn't get a guaranteed first-round pick. A lot of people are talking about that, and I can understand the sentiment, wanting to get a big haul for a guy that was viewed as the biggest piece of the trade deadline. But again, I think that you have to look long-term here. As for Carolina, kind of talking with a buddy from work today about it and what our thoughts were, depends. Is he going to be a rental, and how do the playoffs go? If he signs an extension, yeah, I think that they're going to be in a good spot. We kind of talked about that at work too, about how just signing this extension is a big deal for them, and it seems like they could already be in the works of talking about a new deal. But really just looking at this, if he is a rental and things in early, Pittsburgh got to be pretty happy with what happens there. Who knows, maybe they get reacquainted with him and get him in free agency. But anyway, those are my thoughts on that, and I did want to say why I didn't put out a video. I had originally thought about doing it considering I did a Hannafin video before the trade details came out, but I was literally making dinner. I said, I'm hoping that if they trade Guentzel, it's going to be when I'm asleep or when I'm at work so I can use it as an excuse. No, I had noodles boiling, I had chicken that was cooking on the stove. Dinner was basically at the point where it was just, you couldn't stop. Like, everything was going to be ruined if I left it there. So I was like, of course, to make this trade as I'm making dinner. And then I realized that the trade details weren't really coming out about this. So then I was like, yeah, I'm not really going to waste my time doing a video when I can't even really talk about what the details are going to be, because that was going to be a big part of this. So I just made dinner, went to bed, and then woke up this morning and saw the details. But anyway, who do you think won the Jake Guentzel trade, and what do you think the Hurricanes will be able to do come playoff time? Will they win Lord Stanley? Let me know all that stuff down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night, and Eagle of Hockey, all right. Also, I did want to add, this is the final video for this week until Monday, unless something crazy big happens. And yeah. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.